What up is Marcus with Dynasty with Dads. We have the beginner tips. And for you advanced Dynasty experienced owners, please comment below some of your biggest tips that you have learned from. And sometimes you learn by losing. And it's heartbreaking, but it's truly... It truly is the case. And so the number one thing is buying players too late. I see this a lot. I actually have, I've coached kind of through some teams, like one-on-one, like this was a couple of years ago, but they were like, oh my goodness, I'm getting Julio Jones or Todd Gurley or Le'Veon Bell. I'm getting these players, or David Johnson in that aspect, but they're depreciating assets. That would be like getting Derrick Henry now. If you are not a top 2-3 team, you are not supposed to be reaching out and getting Derrick Henry. In fact, you need to be selling running backs if you're not a top 2-3 team, unless you are in that path of rebuilding and reloading. Then you can keep your young running backs. But Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Cordell Patterson, all the list goes on and on. When they're 26 or older, these James Conner, Melvin Gordon, these are running backs that need to go off your roster now, and you do not need to be acquiring these players. That is the biggest mistake when it comes to, I would say, beginner Dynasty owners. They don't understand that. They see redraft. And yes, redraft is in kind of an important 12-month period or 6-month period for Dynasty. You're going to end up losing in the long run, and you're going to end up having these teams where they don't make it to the top 2-3. They're fourth, and then all of a sudden they fall off the cliff, and now you're one of the worst teams. And hopefully you don't trade picks, and if you don't have your own picks, then it's just a longer and longer rebuild, which goes into my number 2, which is make sure you understand the value of your picks. The draft picks, especially going into this April time, are going to keep rising. And so if you're not getting a overwhelming, basically, offer, I'm just holding on. Because you could have the next Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor. You could have the next CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase. Like, yes, some of those are a little bit outliers, but you could have those next players. And if you're trading those away for 75 cents on the dollar, that could be a huge loss. And so just make sure that you are getting the value in your draft picks. It is so important. If that's one thing I could recommend, is just figuring out what the value of draft picks are. And it changes in Superflex, in 1 QB, in higher depth or lower depth starting rosters. It changes so much. And so trade calculators are so hard to gauge, and it's why a lot of people don't like them. I like them as a general grasp, as like are we close? Now, do my roster settings fit this mold? And is this trade calculator updated? Because some of these things don't update constantly, and so you're getting 1 month ago's value, and 1 month can change a ton into a player's value, either in the positive or negative. Another thing that I think Dynasty owners struggle with, especially in the beginning, and this is just a general kind of concept, but it is basically trying to figure out what the goal of the team is. You either have one of basically, I would say, let's just say 3 goals. You have either contending mode, which means you need to learn how to go for the championship. And there's certain ways to go about that. You are in rebuild mode, or you are in reload mode. And so there's one of those 3 things. And if you are in rebuild mode, it means you're selling all your veterans. You're selling all of your 26, 25-year-old running backs even, or even anybody that you can see depreciate in the future. You are rebuilding. Reloading, meaning that you are a good team, but you have youth and you're not selling everybody. You're just basically your young team seeing how the season goes out. Or you're the other team, you're contending. And that leads me to my last point, is you don't need to win every trade. And I feel like that is a hard thing to swallow when you give somebody a player that might be better down the road. You might be giving a good youth player, and you might be getting back a player that is not as great, or maybe has a shorter window of success. But sometimes you have to lose trades to get that championship. If there's a team and they tried, they traded for Leonard Fournette in our Dynasty Dads League. They were going for contending, and I was going in for more of the reloading. And it didn't work out that way well for that or it didn't work out the way that owner wanted it to. Same goes for, but there's teams that trade for James Conner and Cordell Patterson and Aaron Jones. Like, these teams may have lost the trade initially because you're trading somebody that is probably either youth or picks. It's usually one of the two that you, or combo of those two that you're giving up. Sometimes you have to lose those trades to really take that. I mean, you can only get something, you can't get a championship every year unless you're in a horrible league. And so sometimes you have to grasp that championship and go after it. And I see a lot of these teams say, well, you just have to make the playoffs. Yes, that is part of the problem, but I think you can really make yourself, let's say there's a 16 playoffs. That's 16%, 17%, if I do my math right. No, maybe that's more than that. No, it's like 16.6%. Pretty sure in my head. If that's not right, then that's not right. 6 times, yeah, that's 16.6%. And so if you have a 16.6%, you can increase that to 20 to 30% chance with having a better roster. It is as simple as that. And there's going to be teams that have a 3% chance or 5% chance, and they still might win. I mean, you could go in a matchup, and there was a matchup that I have had in the past, very recently, that I was 40% and the other team was 60%, or maybe it was like 38-62. Anyways, I won that matchup. 38 out of 100 times, I'm going to win. 62 out of 100 times, I'm going to lose and the other team's going to win. You have to put your chances where the odds are. And so don't have to win every single trade every single time. It helps if you start winning some of these trades, of course, because if you keep losing every trade, then that's where you become a bad team. But you're okay with taking these little hits as long as you're winning in some of these other trades more than those hits. And so that is ultimately Dynasty football. It is a stock market. You have to figure out the stock market. We are talking about one of the most volatile things in out there right now. And we're going to do like this little 2-minute kind of spiel because a lot of people talk about crypto. And I am not going to be talking about crypto as in I want to buy it. I own some of it. I own Ethereum, and I think I own I own a little bit of Bitcoin. I own a little bit of everything. I have a little spiel. And I was winning. I was winning really, really high. And then now I'm dropping down and I'm losing. I have some Dogecoin too. Yeah, I did some Dogecoin. So what happens is it's volatile, just like the fantasy stock market. And I think there's even a website out there. I can't remember if it's Precision Strike or not. I'm not sponsored by them by any means, but they even do the stock market of football players, which maybe I'll get into because I like stocks. But the crypto stuff is so volatile. We talk about NFTs being either boom or bust now too, and I feel like I'm just going to stay away from some of that stuff. But fantasy football is not going to be as expensive. We're not putting thousands of dollars into fantasy. Well, some of us are putting thousands of dollars into fantasy football. I'm looking at you guys, looking at maybe a couple of you guys out there that might be putting that much money in. I don't put that much money in. I mean, I think my total of all my leagues combined, they're not in 5 figures. They're in the 4 figures. Yeah, low 4 figures. Yeah. So, but it's fun. It's fun. So my whole spiel is, yes, sometimes you're gonna get some of these players that are gonna be super boom. Elijah Mitchell. That's probably like Cardano in the early days. And we just hope it continues. And then there might be some that are plummeting. I'm trying to think of an example of like a Dogecoin. I should do a fantasy to relate the fantasy player to the actual coins, like Ethereum, Bitcoin. Bitcoin would have to be a quarterback because they're more long term, or maybe it's just Travis Kelce is like Bitcoin. I'm just spitballing off the top. Dogecoin, somebody that rised crazily, even though we all kind of thought it was fake, and then crashed into the flames. Comment who your Dogecoin player is. I'd be interested. I'm trying to think right off the top of my head who's my Dogecoin player, who rose to the top. And you're getting off the cuff right here. You're getting live stuff. So I'm trying to think who rose. It's not Trey Sermon because Trey Sermon was never relevant. So you got to find somebody that's relevant. It could be Cam Akers. It could be, unfortunately, J.K. Dobbins. Could be those players. But again, they might still come back. They still have some value. And Dogecoin still has some value. I think it's like 14 cents right now, 15 cents. I say that now, and I'm not Elon Musk, so it probably drops like 3 pennies. So yeah, tell me who you think your Dogecoin player. And if you don't know what Dogecoin is, it's the crypto stuff. So it's a player that has risen crazily, and sometimes, again, like this fake persona, maybe even like a Cam Akers, and now has crashed. I don't know who my Dogecoin player is. I'm not officially labeling that. It might be Jerry Jeudy. I mean, I'm staring at a Jerry Jeudy signed jersey, and he had the hype. But again, how high? He never really made it top 10. I'm looking for that top 10 player, and I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, Cam Akers for that period of time. But again, Cam Akers still has value. Is it James Robinson now? No. All right. Well, I'm just gonna end this video so I can keep thinking, and maybe I'll comment below if I end up coming up with one of my players. All right. So this is Marcus Nice with Dads. Peace out. Take care. See you tomorrow.